name is Marisa Padilla. I work in financial aid across the hall. I've been here about 2.5 years, and I'm an I'm a financial aid advisor. So there's, I believe, 7 or 8 of us, but we all take turns at the front desk. So if you see one of us and you don't recognize us, it still means that there's an advisor there. Don't be deterred from coming in to see us. Okay, today I just want to focus on some things that maybe you don't know about financial aid, and I also want to point out that this is in no way this is a supplemental presentation. It's not a replacement for you to come in and be advised one-on-one, because this is just generic information. It's not all-inclusive, so there may be things that affect your account that are not covered in this slide. Okay? So first of all, what is financial aid? I have some confusion about what financial aid is. I have a lot of students come in and say, I want my financial aid but not loans. Well, loans are financial aid. So all the things that are included when you apply for financial aid would be grants, loans, work study, and scholarships. Now, the work study has been confused with part-time jobs on Pulaski Tech campus. So if you are not eligible for a work study program, doesn't necessarily mean you can't get a part-time job here at the school. Basically, the difference would be funding. The federal government is going to pay for the work study and can affect the eligibility that you have in loans. You can do the work study and work off what you would borrow instead of taking on the loan and having to pay it back later. The part-time jobs at Pulaski Technical College would be like through HR, and those would be paid by the college itself. Okay, now scholarships. There's so many different types of scholarships. We have the 2 handouts that are on the table right now. They're seasonal, they're periodic, so always be checking online resources. Our office typically doesn't have a whole lot of applications. We do have a few, but those are all posted on the website. We also have a list on the website that you can go to and see other departments on campus where you can pick up those applications. Okay, what are the different sources of financial aid? Federal, again, is primarily what we do in our office. It's called Title IV aid, and it is a federal funding from the national government, and it is based on the results of your FAFSA. On the FAFSA, you can do up to 10 schools, and if you select our school, we'll get that report and we'll start to process your aid from there. State funding, that would be the little blue pamphlet. If you guys grabbed one of those, that would be the lottery scholarship and the GO grant. You would apply for those separately, but we would award from our office those things as well. College scholarships, this is talking more about like in-house, maybe the presidential scholarship, if any of you have that. That would be a college scholarship. There's also private scholarships. Those would consist of maybe a church group gave you money for your tuition or books. And then the biggest thing on here I want to express to you is be sure you know what you need to do to qualify. Like I said, this one application is just a drawing. There really is nothing that you have to do other than sign the paper and turn it in. However, there are some that are based on test scores. Those kind of things, you need to make sure that you've met the deadline and taken the required tests in a timely manner to get those applications in on time. Okay. Who can get federal student aid? This is just generic information again. U.S. citizen, high school graduate. You must be an eligible degree or certificate program. This one confuses a lot of students. There are some programs on Pulaski Technical College campus that are not eligible for financial aid funding. So if you're in one of those programs, we'll let you know that that's something you'll have to pay out of pocket. So just be aware of that. Also, must have valid Social Security. Males must be registered for selective service. Female, optional. And then you have to be meeting satisfactory academic progress. This I do want to have you flip over. It should be a purple or a yellow form in your little handout. And it's called Satisfactory Academic Progress. And just to try to sum up what's happening here is this is what financial aid goes by to determine your status, whether or not we think that you're in good standing, if you're should be placed on warning status of financial aid or on suspension. And there's 3 primary groups. The first one is the minimum GPA requirement to maintain your financial aid. For 1 to 29 credit hours, minimum GPA 1.75. When you start going below that, we'll put you on warning for 1 semester, and if you continue to stay below that, it's when you go on suspension and you'd be responsible for your own funding. Completion of courses. This is going to be pertaining to students who enroll, say, in 12 credit hours and then want to drop classes. So if you get yourself to a situation where you think that you can't finish your entire course load, come check with financial aid, because it could affect your financial aid standing if you drop too many classes. Also, if you withdraw from the entire semester, it is very possible that you would have to pay back some funds. So always check with us first. One of the misleading things about Pell Grant is everyone thinks that it doesn't have to be repaid, which if you complete the semester, you don't have to repay that. However, if you do withdraw from the entire semester, there are some circumstances that would cause you to have to pay back some of those monies. Okay? Maximum time frame to complete the program. This is going to be dependent upon the degree that you're seeking at Pulaski Technical College. The most common would be the associate degree, as far as the credit limit being high. Most students that are getting around the 90 credit hour time frame are going to start finding themselves on financial aid warning. And that's just because we're a 2-year school, so at that time we're starting to try to question why you haven't quite graduated yet. So if you are a student that's changed your major several times or transferred several times, that could put you in this situation. It's a pretty easy fix. You would go into suspension, and at that point you would just go through the appeal process to let us know, and then typically we're pretty flexible about helping you guys finish up those programs. Okay, if you'll flip to the back of that sheet, this part I would suggest everyone read through at some point, and that's just because these are, this really outlines the, like the consequences of not meeting policy. So it's good to be familiar with this before you come into our office in case you get yourself into a situation where you need our assistance. Okay, let's move on to the next. What can keep me from getting federal aid? There's two main things here that I come across with students, so I've added this slide. The first one is defaulted loans, and this is a very confusing topic for students. They want to come in and say, well, my loan's in deferment, or my loan's in forbearance. Well, that may be true, and that means that you're not responsible for payments right now, but you could have had a payment that was skipped in the past, and those loans are no longer in good standing. So we need to get those loans paid up to, it doesn't mean that you have a zero balance, it just means that maybe you missed a payment and you just need to resolve that with your lender. One of the bad things about defaulted loans is some lenders will not clear you for 6 months. So if you're a student who applies with us in March, and you don't find out that you have a default until August, and you're wanting to come to school in August, you may miss out on funds for that semester. So it's really important that if you're taking out loans, you're monitoring your payment plans to make sure that this doesn't cause you to get in a bind with financial aid. Okay? This is a website that I put right here, nslds.ed.gov. It's a great tool for everyone to use, even if you're not receiving loans, because it shows you what colleges are reporting you as attending there, and it also tells you what your status is with Pell Grant. So even if you're not doing student loans, be sure that you're watching this website, because this is what we look at. So it kind of gives you information on the front end so that you know what we're going to be asking you about and where we get our information from. College transcripts is another huge one, especially in spring semester. If you're transferring from another college, college transcripts can hold up your financial aid very easily. We have to have current transcripts from all colleges, and what that means is sometimes we have students that maybe came to Pulaski Tech in 2007, transferred to UALR, and then came back to Pulaski Technical College. Well, if you then decided to go back to UALR, they're going to want not only the first Pulaski Technical College transcript, but also the most recent one. So if you're going back and forth between schools, make sure that you do give us the most recent, because we can freeze your aid if we find out there's transcripts that are out there that we need. Okay, how much federal student aid can I get? This is just a little rundown of how the government determines what your financial aid need is. They go by what's called the EFC, the Expected Family Contribution. This is what they determine is how much money they think that you can contribute from your own household towards your education. For us, the COA is cost of attendance. For our school, it's relatively low because we're only a 2-year college. When you go to a 4-year college, you'll see that sometimes that will go up, but that's going to incorporate tuition, fees, room and board, transportation, and they'll from those numbers decide what your eligibility is. The reason this is important is because I have some confusion too from students where the FAFSA will tell them that they're eligible for a certain amount of money, and then when we award them, the award number is not the same. So just be mindful that when the FAFSA gives you an estimate, that's not necessarily what you're going to be receiving, because they send us the estimate and then they give us the authority to, we have to check for scholarships that you're receiving, we have to check for other sources of financial aid, maybe VA benefits, those kind of things, and those can reduce the amount that you would be getting from the federal portion. So just be mindful that those numbers are not always going to be the same. This slide right here is really focused towards people who've never done the FAFSA. Most of you should be familiar with the PIN number. So this slide just kind of gives those people information about how to do the PIN number and what it means. Do remember that it can be complicated to try to get the PIN number back if you've forgotten it. So try to keep up with it. If you do forget, we can't give it to you, but we can kind of help you troubleshoot how you can get a copy of it. College Goal Sunday is really important too. I want to pass on to you guys while I have a chance. The nationwide push from all financial aid advisors for us to get together and help you fill out your FAFSA. So if you have already done your taxes, or if you know you're not filing taxes this year, you can come into the library. It could be our library, it could be ALR, UCA, wherever you're closest to. It doesn't have to be the school you're attending. But between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. we'll be assisting students fill out the FAFSA in the libraries.
That's March 10th, right?
March 10th. It's a Sunday afternoon. Okay, and how do I apply for federal student aid? Now this is where most students are going to be at this point in the semester right now, since it's February. People will start filling out their FAFSAs for the fall semester. Now is a great time to start doing that if you filed your taxes. The biggest thing here is, if you'll see in the top line right here, it says free application. So if you find yourself in a place where they're asking for debit card or credit card information, you're in the wrong place. Also, if anybody says, oh, well, if you pay, it's going to be expedited. That's not true either. The fastest and easiest way to do the application is through the FAFSA.ed.gov. You can also go to studentaid.gov, and this will give you good information about the financial aid process. Now, apply on or after January 1st. Obviously, some students wouldn't have been able to file taxes by then, but that's the first day that it is available online. Don't forget to save or print a confirmation page. That's for your record, just so that you know that you have completed that process. But what we really need from you in our office is for you to follow up 1 week later after you did the FAFSA. This gives us a chance to get it uploaded to our system so we can view it and start helping you with your process. At this point, you do not have financial aid in place. We haven't awarded you yet, but you do have the FAFSA, which is the first step. Now, watch for response through my PTC portal. This is kind of a new thing. We're doing all online award letters now. We don't do on paper like we have in years past. So everything that we're going to correspond with you is going to be through the portal as far as what documents we need. There are certain circumstances, especially if you're selected for verification, which we'll talk about in a minute, when we'll do some mail correspondence with you. But at this point, be checking your portal. That's going to be where you look before you contact us. Make sure that you're looking at everything online you have access to before you call us, because one of the biggest things that I would like to impress on students is make sure that you're asking us the right questions, because we can give you the wrong information if you're giving us the wrong question, because everybody's case is very, very different. So make sure that you are educated before you call us, because if you just happen to use the wrong word or ask us something that maybe isn't really what your situation is, then we could give you the wrong information that could really postpone your aid. So make sure that you know what you're looking at, especially if we say, well, have you been to this, have you looked at that, that you are familiar with that, so it can help you get your process done a little quicker. Okay, the minimum for every student that's getting financial aid for our office is the data form. So we'll have those available sometime in early March for the fall semester. But you can go ahead and start the FAFSA now, and then when March comes around, we can get you the data form. Okay. Your FAFSA will tell you whether or not you were selected for verification, and I put a paper in here because verification really messes up a lot of students' financial aid and can really delay it. So if you'll go to the blue sheet that's in your handout, This is it's a little older, so some of the information, like, we don't accept tax returns anymore, it has to be the tax transcript. But at least the information here about what verification is, I felt was really important to explain. It can really confuse students. It's basically just like a small audit where we just have to go through your paperwork and verify. But if we're getting conflicting information from you, it can really delay your process, and it can be very frustrating for the student. If you do find yourself selected for verification, you'll get some documents that will ask a lot of questions. If you have problems answering those questions, ask us about it, because if you just guess and you put the wrong answer down, then it's very possible for us to end up sending you another letter 2 or 3 weeks later to try to clear that one thing up. So if you're not sure, go ahead and come to our office and we can help you fill out the documents the right way the first time. Okay? All right, how do I apply for student aid? Step 4 would be to accept or decline your aid. Now this is under the assumption that the verification has been complete, your data form is on file, and we do have your FAFSA. So at this point, financial aid can actually post the award to your online account. So now your next step is to say, okay, do I need to do a master promissory note and entrance counseling? Well, if you have never had student loans before, and this is your first time to take out student loans, you do know that you have to do these 2 things. If you're a transfer student and you've done a master promissory note and entrance counseling at other colleges, you'll need to do one for ours. Because they only stay at that college. And then, but if you've been here within the last 2 years, you'll be okay if you've done these before. Now this new law went into effect in 2009, so if you have an older entrance interview from like 2006, it may be possible that we'll say, well, go ahead and update that for us and do a newer one just so that we have one since 2009. Okay, now once these steps are complete, and you verify with us that we do have the master promissory note, entrance counseling, and the award letter, you are finished with your financial aid. So from now on, you would be handling your refunds through the business office. Okay? And that's pretty much where we are today, because yesterday was refund date, so anybody who picked up a check yesterday has already completed all the process. Okay? Now, this part I kind of wanted to show you just to be familiarize you with the portal itself. Right here you'll see this is the Campus Connect, like you've already logged in as a student. Here's your Campus Connect tab, and then what you're going to be looking for is the online award letter. If you click on that, you'll see a screen similar to this. This screen is a student who has already accepted both loans and scholarships and grant. Now, the grant and scholarships are typically already accepted for you, but you will have an option to decline or accept the loans. One of the things that I really like about this area is we put a new little option there for you to decrease the amount of the loan by increments. So you can decrease the loan by $100 if each time you click on the little arrow to adjust the amount of loans that you're accepting. We'll talk about student loans here in a few minutes. Okay, once you've accepted your award letter, you'll come over here and look at this screen. And if you look at the date accepted column, that's the date that you're looking for. If you look at the award amount column, that's what we as at Pulaski Technical College are stating that we're willing to put to your account if you are in at least 12 hours. So right there where it says Pell Grant 2,700, that's the total award amount that you would have posted to your account if you were in 12 hours. If you took less than 12 hours, that would be adjusted down depending on how many credit hours you're in. The loan portion, $2,250. As long as you're in 6 credit hours, you are eligible for that total amount. If you decrease that amount, that's okay. You'd still be eligible for the full amount that you chose to accept. So you're looking for the date accepted. Once you have the date accepted, that's how you know that you did accept your award, and we know that we can process your start transmitting money. The transmitted amount column really scares some people because it's usually just zeros. And that's because we don't populate those numbers until closer to the refund date. So when we get close to refund, that's when you can start looking at that date, those numbers. Also, as we're getting closer to refund date, make sure you're checking your account status instead of the award letter. And that's because the account status is going to show you what your charges were and where your credits were from the financial aid. And that way you can get a better idea of what your refund check will really be.
Why is transmitted amount different than award amount?
Processing fees. There are a few processing fees on like the loans. Usually the Pell Grant would be the same, but again, if you're taking less hours, that could affect the number. But yeah, for loans especially, you will see that there's a little bit of a difference in the transmitted amount because the processing fees they take off the front. These are some, I got most of this from the Department of Higher Ed website, so it's going to be just kind of a little more technical information, but I want to point out some things that students really need to know about loans. First of all, they must be repaid. There have been rumors that students think they can file bankruptcy on student loans like you can a house, which you can't. So this is a really, if you feel like you think that maybe in the future you might get yourself in a situation where you might have to file bankruptcy, let that be one of the determining factors when you're accepting your aid, that this is something that we won't be able to file the bankruptcy on. Okay, the lifetime maximum for student loans, which does not include the totals you'll get from Pell Grant, but the lifetime max is $57,500. That's in pursuit of a bachelor's degree. So once you get a bachelor's degree, you would go into another set and be eligible for more loans if you wanted to pursue maybe a master's or doctorate. But as far as a bachelor's degree, this is what the federal government, Title IV aid, will give you towards a bachelor's. Okay, this is just a little warning. You can max out these loans within 5 years. So if you found yourself already working towards an associate's for maybe 1 or 2 years and you're going to transition into another degree, maybe a bachelor's degree, make sure that you're kind of budgeting your funds so that you don't run out before your senior year. We've come across that a few times. Students have run out of aid before they can complete their last year of school, and then they find themselves in financial hardship and they have to drop out of school. So just be mindful that if you're taking the maximum each semester, you can run out of that money within 5 years. Okay. Know all that you owe. This is that NSLDS website again. If you'd like to go and just kind of view and see where you are right now with your status. The biggest thing I like about NSLDS is that it has names and phone numbers. So if you're confused about something and you're not really sure who your lender is, you just click on it and it tells you, if you're a borrower, here's customer service, this is the phone number, this is the loan number, so that when you call them, you already know what your account number is and that kind of stuff. This student loan thing has become almost more of a hindrance to students, and this part of why we want to educate is that there has been some type of misleading information that taking out student loans is the way to go. Because privatized loans usually have higher interest rates and these kind of things. And that, with creditors saying, oh, well, student loan debt is good debt. It could be good in the sense of not as bad as some of the others, but it's still debt and it still has to be repaid. And it causes a lot of students a lot of problems when they graduate or don't graduate. Because if you don't graduate, then you're still stuck having to pay these back and you're still in the same income. So it's just one of those things where you have to be really confident that you're going to end up in a job that's going to pay you enough to be able to pay off these things in a 10-year time frame. Okay, there are 2 types of student loans right now. It's the subsidized and the unsubsidized. The primary difference here is not an interest rate amount or when you start paying it back. It's a matter of while you're in college, one accrues interest while the other does not. The government will pay the interest while you're in classes at least half time for subsidized loans. Unsubsidized, you're going to be responsible for the interest being added to the initial principal once you graduate or withdraw from school. Those are the 2 that you'll have an option of when we give you an award letter. Now this parent loan, I put this on here because there are some students that this applies to and they don't seem to know that it's available to them. But if you are a dependent student and you need more additional financial aid loans, your parent does have the option to take out on your behalf. If the parent is concerned that they won't get approved, that's okay, because if they are declined, then in that situation, we typically let the student borrow the money themselves. But we go through the parent first, just because this is usually for students that are, the whole reason they're dependent is because they're needing help from parent, and so we want the parent to help educate the student on whether or not that's something that they should be doing about it. Okay. Student loan limits, again, generic information. I only put freshman and sophomore because we're a 2-year school. We don't really have juniors and seniors as far as like our financial aid is awarded. So as you see here, the maximum per year for a freshman is $3,500 in subsidized loans. It goes additional $2,000 unsub will be awarded if the student chooses to take that. Now, the $3,500 is based on need. The $2,000 is not. So some students may get less than $35,000, but across the board they should be offered the $2,000. When you become a sophomore student, you are eligible for the extra $1,000 in subsidized. Okay, here's where the independent lifetime max, the $57,500 came in. Independent students are eligible for the same amount of subsidized, but if you see here, the main difference is that the unsubsidized amount went up by $4,000. So that's really the biggest difference between an independent and dependent is the $4,000 that they're eligible for. Okay, requirements. Must be eligible for Title 4A, which again is through the FAFSA. You must be enrolled at least half-time status. Now, I want to clarify what half-time status is. That is anything above 6 credit hours. Well, not anything, but you have to be at least 6 credit hours to be eligible for loans. This confuses some students because they'll come in and say, well, I have 2 classes. Well, 2 classes isn't always 6 hours. You could be in, I think somebody had maybe a reading class or something the other day that was only 2 hours, or maybe an art class. So if you have a 2-hour class and a 3-hour class, it's still only 5. So it's not about the number of classes, it's about the number of credit hours you're getting. Okay, and I do want to say too, if that's at the beginning of the semester and you start out with 6 hours and then you drop out, you drop under 6 hours, so you drop 1 class, you will lose your loans. Okay, so it's not with the first day you're enrolled in. Okay, it can be throughout the semester. It can affect your loan eligibility. Okay, the master promissory note and entrance counseling have to be on file, which we talked about earlier. And then the exit counseling, this is kind of something that a lot of students forget and don't do for us. But when you transfer or graduate or withdraw, if you're taking loans, if you go ahead and do the exit counseling, this is a really good time for you guys to get refreshed on what's going to happen to your loans. So the exit counseling is kind of like a tutorial, just like the entrance counseling, where they say, okay, now what? What's next? This is what you need to expect with your student loans now that you're graduating or moving on. Okay. These are just some slides I put for your information about monitoring your loans. Deferment, again, that's just when you are enrolled in school at least half time and they are not expecting you to make payments. So this is a good program if you're a student and especially if you're taking out more aid or more loans that you're not actually having to make student loan payments while you're in classes. Forbearance is really for those that aren't in class and they're having a financial hardship, say that they have some medical bills or maybe you're moving or something like that where you have some extra expenses. You can call your lender and typically they'll give you a forbearance for a couple months so that you can get caught up. Default, again, that's when you have not made payments and you haven't contacted your lender, and they can put that on you. One of the things about default that's really important too for you to know is after so long being in default, they can send that to collections, and now it's affecting your credit. So default can be a serious thing. They can send you collections, and the next thing you know, you're not dealing with your lender who's all nice and understanding. You're dealing with a bill collector who just wants their bottom cut. So just be mindful of that. Also, consolidation. I want to clear up a really big misunderstanding about consolidation. It can be beneficial to you to consolidate, and it can hurt you if you do consolidation. So everybody says, oh, I'm just going to consolidate. Well, sometimes it can have a negative impact on your interest rate. So talk to your lenders before you decide to consolidate if you get to a point where you want to do so, because there are times when consolidating will raise your interest rate and then you're paying back more money than you would have paying individually. So just be educated on those. Right here there says Direct Loans Consolidation website has an online calculator to help you find out how much you'll pay. That's a good tool to use as well. But always check with your lender before you make a decision on things like that. And you can also check with your lender about these different repayment plans. The standard repayment is what everybody is placed on at the beginning, but don't be discouraged. If it's a high payment, don't worry. Just call your lender and say, okay, I don't think this is in my budget. What can we do to work around this? And typically they have some other payment plans to try to help you guys out. But anyway, so nslds.edu.gov, I can't impress on you any stronger how important that website is and how good of a tool it is for you guys. 1-800-4-FED-AID. This is a good phone number if you're just having some questions about your status, whether it's Pell Grant, FAFSA, all that. They have some really good information for you. So at this point, we close, and then I'll show you the video.
I got mine when I was 18.
I got that when I was 21.
Student loans.
Student loan.
I subtracted student loans at 19, and I'm one of millions.
Almost half of all Americans between the ages of 18 and 22 are fiscally active. Many do not understand the risk they are taking when they contract a student loan.
All my friends were going to college. I just wanted to fit in. Now I have a degree in comparative philosophy, no job, and a full-blown case of student loans.
Studies show that those infected with student loan debt are less likely to date regularly or have bed frames. Even if not exposed to student loan debt directly, they can be transmitted by legal marriage.
I married the love of my life, except she didn't tell me about her student loan debt. Now it's our student loan debt.
It is possible to lead a healthy, active, fulfilling life with student loan debt. Just not for very long.
I used to love cereal. Then I contracted student loan debt, and now it's all I eat. I miss protein.
Student loans only get worse with time and can manifest in many ways. Studio apartments, having roommates well into your 30s, top ramen, and driving a car older than yourself. If you have been exposed to student loan debt, contact an accountant today. There is no cure for student loan debt, and there is no hope.
So average parents.
Average parents.
Have rich parents.
Or play the lotto.
Hey, you never know. Paid for by the New York State Lotto.